All right, so let's get started. Welcome everyone to our token holder update. We've got quite a few exciting things to talk about today. So let's get right into it. Let's get to the first slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to give you an executive update, kind of state of the union, I guess. And we're also going to talk about the Orion app, business development, marketing, and we've had our team expanded quite a bit recently as well. So that's exciting. And then also we have some new advisory board members who recently joined us. One of them is George Wentz, who is actually responsible. It's interesting. He's an entrepreneur, businessman, but he's also an attorney that sued the federal government and won in relinquishing the requirement for everyone to wear masks on airplanes. So if you remember that story, that was quite a story, and he happens to own several data centers as well, and so we're very proud to be partnering with him, both at Crown Sterling as well as at Theon, and I'm actually even joining his advisory board, which is great. Very impressive guy, and happy to have him on board. And Danesh Chowdhury has also recently joined our advisory board. He's the CEO of FMFW and was previously the Bitcoin.com exchange, as well as is on very much involved in Changely Pro, HitBTC, etc. So several different exchanges. He's been in the crypto space. He's one of the originals in the crypto space, and we're very proud to have him on board and to be able to gain from his wisdom and knowledge in the category. Next slide. So there was a really big, this is the first big known crack, not a hack, but a crack of a public key of, and it was relative to the Ethereum tokens that were stolen out of it, but it was through a wallet as well. But this was a public key that was known to be a crack. So the difference between a crack and a hack is that a hack means someone was able to lift your password and get at you through other means, and they could sort of like ascertain your password. In this way, though, it's very different than a crack, because a crack is when you take the public key value and define and find, identify the private keys associated with that in this elliptic curve. By doing so, just using a brute force analysis or quantum computer or a geometric attack. And this is the first to have been cracked like this. It's the first to have been acknowledged. I think that the FBI cracks that happened early last summer were first notified as cracks as well. And then they said, no, they didn't exactly say how they got into the accounts. But, this was the first big one that is known to be a public key crack. So that means that very likely this is not some fluke. It should have taken something like 300 trillion years to crack this. And yet it was done, obviously not in 300 trillion years. And I think it's very consistent with what the Chinese are talking about, using a 60 qubit quantum computer that was able to crack a 256-bit elliptic curve. And for those of you that understand encryption a little bit, you might know that basically you have two types of encryption. You have encryption that is in motion, right? And it's for transit. It's going from one place to another, versus it's encryption that is stationary or at rest. And generally what we use for stationary at rest encryption is we're going to be using AES, Advanced Encryption Standard 256. But when you want to transfer it from one party to another, you have to use a public key transport, and the public key transport would be an elliptic curve. So if the elliptic curve gets cracked, then what gets cracked out of that is the key to the AES. And generally this is a problem, because once you crack one AES key, this becomes a real issue because it's related to a block cipher. Then all of the files within a architecture like Equifax or Ralph Lauren got cracked like this, and so did Target, etc. every file you have then gets cracked and broken into. And so this is why it's so important to have a single use key for all of your files. And one-time pad achieves that because it not only achieves it from the context of having it be single use, each character is individually encrypted. So that means you have really long keys. And those are some of the challenges that come along with implementing a one-time pad that we overcame. But this is a big deal because, you know, Greg has said very often to me, he's like, well, as soon as somebody like really cracks into a major account, takes a serious amount of money, then it's going to really have a big impact. I actually think it's been happening. And it's just that people aren't believing it yet, but it's been happening. And I think it's been happening for quite some time, in fact. Next slide. So this is actually an analysis that was done by Deloitte, the consulting group, and they analyzed to see what was the risk associated with blockchain and quantum computing. And it was interesting because in this analysis, you know, I think they did a really nice job calling it out without causing a lot of public fear, right, in the space, particularly where there's already a lot of concern related to, you know, inflation and prices in the market generally, particularly related to crypto. But this definitely calls out that the cryptocurrency market is really not at all prepared or adequately prepared for the onslaught that will happen with quantum computing. Now, they still said it could still be a few years away. A lot of people are still working off the paradigm of something called Shor's algorithm, when actually the new algorithms that are being used are more related to what's called Grover's algorithm. And we also know geometrically that there's ways to crack it as well without even using quantum computers. And we've written papers to that effect also. So I think that the current standards for public key cryptography are now recognized by the government. They put out a memo to everybody saying, you've got to switch over to a new quantum resistant encryption, and the types of encryptions they've called out of being quantum resistant are one-time pad that's always been quantum resistant, and then they approved 3 others, 2 of which were already cracked recently. They were cracked by standard computers. And I think part of the problem is that the government's put between a rock and a hard spot because, think about it, they don't necessarily want to really advocate everybody using encryption that they cannot themselves crack. So to try to set a standard and say, let's make it quantum resistant, but that we can still crack it, right? With some sort of brute force, that's a really difficult standard to meet. And I think they've got a real challenge there. And also there's been a lot of discussion as well about even the early stages of crypto and whether or not, you know, it was part and parcel of some NSA thing with Bitcoin. And I'm trying to remember the name of the group. Was it Bull Mount? No, it was something Bull. Greg, you're on mute, Greg. You have to unmute it. I think you guys have to unmute him.
I got too many windows open. I got far too many windows open. It was called Bull Run. That was
on our end.
You're unmuted on our end, but you there. Okay, we hear you now. We hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I have far too many things open on my end. Yeah, Bull Run was released during the Snowden era when he divulged all that information, but it's basically a backdoor into SSL, which is really, really crazy, right? And that's it kind of shouldn't exist, but I think the NSA has this, and they've probably had it for some time. And you know, where one person has it, you can imagine more people have it. I don't think they're the only, you know, certainly world government to have access to this type of thing, but you know, I would imagine the private parties probably also have access.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. It was Bull Run, right? Bull Run. Okay, great. So let's go to the next slide. So basically what they're saying here is that digital trust patents granted annually between 2015 and 2020. And, you know, I think the real issue here for Deloitte is that they outlined and said that they really felt like there needs to be, you know, trustless solutions, but that the entire blockchain industry is very ill-equipped to actually do this correctly and to do it in a timely manner. So everyone's kind of caught flat-footed. And so you can reference that article. I think you can find it just on a Google search. So you should be able to access it, but we'll probably have some form of it eventually posted somewhere on our website. Next slide. So organizations keep a pulse on quantum technology and the related cryptography landscape to ensure timely technology and talent investment and development. So, I mean, kind of things that you would expect, but they're basically saying that none of them are quantum resistant. All the current blockchains are not quantum resistant. Obviously, this is why we've gone into where we've gone. Next slide. Interestingly as well, you probably saw that Elon Musk went forward with his acquisition of Twitter. And I find it interesting because when I was reading the email fodder that was going back and forth during the negotiation between Elon and Twitter, there was a lot of information that got published on TechCrunch. And this is from one of the TechCrunch articles. And basically, I'll just read what Elon's intention was with Twitter. It got published right before he ended up buying Twitter at the original price. But basically, he said, I have an idea for a blockchain social media system that does both payments and short text messages and links like Twitter. You have to pay a tiny amount to register your message on the chain, which will cut out the vast majority of spam and bots. There is no throat to choke, so free speech is guaranteed. And then he says, my plan B is a blockchain-based version of Twitter where the tweets are embedded in the transaction of comments. He told Steve Davis, president of the Boring Company. So you'd have to pay maybe 0.1 Dogecoin per comment or repost of that comment. So to make a conversion for Twitter onto a social platform, especially something as complex as what we're talking about, what he's contemplating here, is going to take a number of years. The good news is we've already built what he is basically aspiring to have at Twitter. Now, there aren't that many times that you can actually be ahead of Elon Musk in something, but I'm pretty happy that we are. And this is really exciting because I see a future where all social media is going to go decentralized. People are going to be able to own their own platforms, and we will become a catalyst that's a node, decentralized node approach that nobody has control over except for each individual for their own communities. And in large part, this is similar to what you've seen on Telegram, but Telegram has a limit of only 250,000 people that you can have at a time, and there's a lot of drawbacks on Telegram. My vision is that you could have unlimited number of people. You probably just saw this morning after Kanye West basically got bounced off of Twitter for his anti-Semitic comments, etc. The first thing he did is he went out and bought Parler. And so one of the discussions we had at our board meeting that we had just prior to this call was that one of our board members said to me, she's like, oh, that's going to be the future. Everyone's going to buy their own platform. I'm like, they won't need to. They'll just have their own on our platform. And that's exactly what we are building. And I think that if you kind of think about where the world is going, money needs banks to protect it. We all need bank accounts to protect it. And property and assets need fences and walls of buildings. And data, the world's most valuable asset, needs encryption. And so the thing that backs the value in society today is actually the quantum resistant encryption that we know is unassailable and incredibly powerful and is going to make a massive part of our life enabled around a decentralized social platform. And we think about messaging, but if you play on Telegram, or on WhatsApp, that's already being used as a social media platform. And that's where this is going. So big influencers are going to lead the charge. And our platform is going to all be through influencers who are big on social media, who will bring thousands and thousands of people over into our platform, but they'll actually have it be their own. It's almost like a WordPress when you create a website. We're going to create our platform is one that they'll be able to create their own social communities on our platform and have it all be encrypted. And eventually Everybody on that platform will even be able to make their own NFTs, capture their own data through the whole VPN process. So what you're seeing now are the early stages. The messaging is the first thing to roll out, and the alpha is already out, and I can now use the alpha version of this on my iPhone, which is great. We have our own messaging app. It's all one-time pad encrypted, and you can think of it as it's similar to, it's not quite there yet, but it's similar to where Telegram is. And we will be adding more and more features and benefits to it. We don't want to have anything that you can do on Telegram that you can't do on our platform, but it's going to take a little bit of time for us to get there, but we're moving very rapidly. I'm very excited about it. And it's all encrypted with this foundational basis of our one-time pad, which is really cool. So I'll let Greg speak to that. You can unmute yourself, Greg, if you'd like to make any comments on our alpha release.
Sure. Very exciting stuff, really. We're pushing ahead with, kind of this transition from the alpha release of our, messaging software, which is aptly named Orion. This has been released internally to us and our sister companies currently. We're really excited to share the beta with all of you fine folks, which we believe is going to be sometime around mid-November. We really believe that all of the current messaging applications out there obviously aren't serving the community properly. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and if you are using any sort of communication platform for free, there's a 100% chance your data is being sold or your data is being monetized. WhatsApp, as we've started to do some due diligence on, ultimately thanks to Jeremy, which I'll get a chance to talk about this in a second. But one particular stat that honestly blew my mind about this was WhatsApp's revenue last year, well north of $5 billion. The sheer volume of data they're collecting and selling on your behalf every time you use that application.
Wait, the app is free. How is it 5 billion?
It's amazing. It's mind blowing.
There's no advertising on it. The app is free. How is it $5 billion in revenue?
Exactly. But again, yeah, exactly. And again, back to us, we're really focused on creating a decentralized, first we're going to start with messaging because it's the simplest form of communications. Then we're going to move on to more generic types of data, files, music, movies, whatever you kind of can dream up and imagine on that front. It's a big challenge in the decentralized space, right? There's been a lot of people who have tried and not gotten the recipe quite right, but we feel like we're very uniquely positioned and we have the right team to really bring this to life in a way that's going to change the world.
Absolutely. No, we're feeling, everyone here is feeling really good about this, and very, very excited about where we're going with this. It's exciting to be on your own messaging app too. That's kind of a cool feeling. And I think everyone being able to create their own communities is also very exciting for me. And what they can do, in fact, they'll even be able to create their own currencies within those communities. Whoa, cool concept, right? Maybe there's a whole future for barter with liquid barter exchanges. Interesting. So you guys are only seeing a tip of an iceberg of where this is going, right? And we don't want to, that's the whole thing with vision. You don't want to communicate too early your visions, right? And just have it be, one of the things I often said about Steve Jobs, who's an amazing guy. You look at someone like Leonardo da Vinci, and those of you that know me know I studied a lot about his life. Leonardo was 500 years ahead of his time. But what made Steve Jobs brilliant was he was exactly right on time. He knew exactly what the world wanted and needed at the time that the world needed and wanted it. And that's a unique talent in and of itself. So it's something myself, I've even had to figure out how to titrate as I've kind of seen the future of things and where trends are going, how to time it all. It's like being a great chef. How does a chef make it all happen and make sure that all plates are warm, right? It's not easy. It's really hard. And it's the same thing with being an effective CEO. And it takes great teams to do that, right? And the same is true in Fabulous Kitchens, and absolutely true in everything that we do. It all comes down to that coordination effort and everybody working. The teamwork makes the dream work. And that's what I think that's one of Greg's favorite quotes, because he says it all the time. And our whole team and the team he's on attracted and brought on. We've been growing our dev team. We've got some really great talent there now. I think we have now 3 Russian speakers on our team, which is pretty funny. They're all great at English as well. And it's fabulous to have really great programming talent on our team. And they've all got great personalities and they're fun to work with as well. So that's been a real pleasure, total pleasure. So we also have a new white paper coming, which I think is going to knock everyone's socks off. Greg, can you give us a little preface on that?
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a long time coming since I first got on board. It's one of the things I've looked forward to the most because it's really, an opportunity to set the stage for what's to come from a technology vantage point, right? And really see the forest above the trees. This holistically from, the encryption all the way down to, our node protocol, the way we implement mining and staking, the way that we actually reward our storage node operators. It's all kind of detailed in here. We've taken, the better part of the last 6 months kind of perfecting the architecture. And even so, we're hitting it every day, just making sure that, it's really going to serve the community correctly, right? From both a fiscal perspective, as well as from a data sovereignty perspective, right? Both are important if we're going to kind of bring this thing to life. So we're obviously hard at work trying to not only ensure that the theoretical pieces of this are good, but that we're empirically testing every single thing we do with real code.
Great. Awesome. So let's go ahead and go. Let's see, actually go back just one slide a second. So we've got a pretty heavy conference circuit coming up as well. The Orion app full release is going to be in the first quarter, which is exciting. And then lots of press and media stuff. We've already been doing a lot of that, but we're going to be doing even more of it. We've got some major product launches this next year. And we've got a really important one that's going to be, coming in the back half of the year as well. That's really related to file storage and leading into compression of data also, which we've made great progress on. Our team, presented on it yesterday as well. And then also finally, at long last, our debit card launch. This has not been an issue for us. We've done all of our part. It's just been dealing with the legacy infrastructure of these banks that are just freaking slow. I cannot believe how slow they are. And they just don't give a shit. They're like the worst because they have like terrible customer service, everything. It's just the worst. But it's been, and they're not even giving any money in it either. That's the other funny part about it. It's nothing to do with them, right? Financially, it's just purely the actual processing has been the challenge. So, but that is going forward. Next slide. Basically, you guys will remember we launched this data bill of rights that we believe that data is the intangible personal property of the original producer and therefore protected by the Constitution, by the Bill of Rights, also by the articles of the European Union's Charter on Human Rights, etc. And we feel very strongly about this. I think to a person, we all feel strongly about this. We also feel very strongly to a person here about the need to have platforms where you can have free speech. I think Elon is totally right in this. I think he's absolutely correct that it's difficult to have democracy when everything else starts to trump free speech. There's a reason why the founding fathers made free speech the First Amendment, and an attack on free speech is underway right now, the likes of which I've never seen or even contemplated. There's a very strong thrust towards communism and a strong thrust towards fascism. And actually, those two things are actually the same thing, because anyone who claims to be a communist after they get into power quickly becomes a fascist. Everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others. So then all these basic rights start going away. And I was, pretty surprised to see Tulsi Gabbard walk away from the Democratic Party in such a public fashion and call out A, warmongering, and B, a battle against free speech in this country and towards communistic ideals. I think what the country needs is to be less divided and more united. maybe there's a pathway to get towards a third-party system. But in order for some real evolution to happen out of this kind of nightmarish duality and two-party system we've been in, we need platforms where people can have free speech. Fundamental. There needs to be a right to assemble. And this is a fundamental guaranteed right, and governments exist to protect these rights. We don't exist for the government. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. The government should work for us. They derive their power from the consent of the governed. So there needs to be a platform where people can have spirited debate, active dialogue. You can have a forum for disagreement. And I think each person who owns their own community should be able to foster that within their own community. They should be responsible for what's on their community. They have their own administrators, just as it is on Telegram. And I think censorship in general is just something we want to stay absolutely away from. However, having said that, we will have technological safeguards built into our system so that if you wanted to post something, it's not that it's getting monitored. There's no monitoring of it. Remember, nobody controls it. If I wanted to open your messages, I couldn't open your messages because I don't have your keys and I'm not even in control of storing your keys on a decentralized system. So I can't really do anything about it. It's almost as if I said, okay, here is some gasoline that you can use for your car. What you do with your car, you could drive to a park with your family or you could rob a bank with it. I'm not responsible for what you do with their car, right, that day. And we want to have a system that is in the same way set up so that people across the distributed node network, which is not owned by anyone or controlled by anyone, it means that, we can literally have a truly decentralized social platform and social messaging as well as one-to-one messaging. And we're very, very excited about this. This is something that has been a dream of mine for a long time. I launched a social media app in 2012 that became a sensation in healthcare. It took off like crazy. Before I knew it, the thing was like crazy valuable and everything. And so some of the same principles we added into this platform at that time, I've had, as a dream to add into future platforms that integrated cryptocurrency. So I am very, very excited about this development and where this is going. Extremely excited about it. But it means if you wanted to post something technologically that would not be allowed onto a network like child pornography or something like that, the system would actually not allow you to even post it. But as far as censoring stuff that is there and monitoring and everything, we do not intend to have any whatsoever, like zero. So basically, it should be up to the control of the actual administrator of their own community that they create, because it's almost as if we just created an open source software where you can manage your own platform, your own community on, it just happens that it's on a distributed nodal network and it's not on our servers. The only thing that we're doing is we're providing the gasoline through the cryptography we actually deliver to each person so that they can have all of this stuff encrypted. Also, other products like compression and NFTs. If you want to blockchain, your data on your platform, you certainly can. So these are all things that I'm very, very excited about. It will take an influencer focus, and I'll let our marketing head here, Jeremy, tell us about that.
Hi, thank you, Robert. And it's a pleasure to meet you all and be here really in service of you all. I joined the team about 2 months ago. My name is Jeremy Monroe. I come to the team with about 25 years of consulting and video game experience, video game publishing experience, and technology publishing experience. And it's an absolute honor to be here and to be a part of this amazing mission. Now that we have gotten to a place where the product is ready to get in front of other people, we are doing a lot of different activities to make sure that we're bringing the best possible product to market. And as Greg said, the first part of that is doing a deep dive into market research to see what the other players in the space are doing, what are their differentiators, how can we make sure that we too are putting something out that is what everybody expects, and is also more secure than what people are used to when it comes to some of the other platforms that are out there. And so it's a great honor to be a part of the team and to do that. So with the market research, that then allows us to, again, iterate on the product, bring a better product to market. And then in support of that, we're going to be ramping up our marketing activities, ramping up our community growth activities, and ramping up our messaging and presence as we get out into the space. One of the main ways that we're looking at doing that is working, as Robert had said, working very closely with influencers, some big notable folks who are out in the space. Robert's got very deep connections across the board and in all different interests and areas. And that's going to be valuable for us as we look at how we bring this to as many people as possible and how we can essentially work with large communities and allow them to build exactly the kind of community outreach, community development platform that they want for their large engaged audiences. And so the influencer approach is very big for us. Some of you might have already noticed this, but we've started our content marketing engine, our content marketing approach. And before I go any further on that, I absolutely want to say, if there's content that you guys want to see from us around the topics that Robert has talked deeply about, or Greg has talked deeply about, or Curran has talked deeply about, please let us know. We're absolutely open to getting your feedback and making sure that we're bringing you content that is important to you, whether that's what's happening in the space where people are chipping away at our rights, what's happening in the space where other people like Elon and us are champions to our rights, our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly. We absolutely want to be bringing that to you. So please let us know. A part of the content marketing engine that has come online recently that we're really excited to continue to develop. We launched a Substack. So if you aren't currently a Substack member, please check it out. There's some great articles there. And Robert is writing those in conjunction with Michael, who he also wrote the upcoming book with, Neuromind. And so if you like what you're seeing there and you like the information that we're bringing together, then you're absolutely going to love the book. You're absolutely going to love the articles that we're continuing to write about. The other thing that we're looking at is we want to continue to put really solid strategies in place to grow our community across Telegram, across Discord, across WhatsApp for the short term, right? Because eventually we want everybody to be coming over to Orion, and that's something that we're really excited about, and we're really excited to see that start to happen, as Greg had said, later in the year, and then moving into Q1. And the last thing I want to mention, and I'll actually, Curran will dive a little bit deeper into this when we talk about events, but we are going to have a very full slate of events through the rest of this year and into the early part of next year as we get closer to launch and as we bring more products online throughout the year. Thanks. So as Robert had said, it's very important for us to be clear on our why we're doing this, why we're building this ecosystem, why we're champions for our rights. And so what you see here is a very clear definition of our why. We're very clear on personal data sovereignty. We're very, very clear on the protection of freedom of speech and the protection of freedom of assembly. We're also very, very clear on the freedom to create, protect, and realize your own value. That's core to our data bill of rights. And then, of course, the freedom of choice is always an underpinning of all of these rights. And then what's going to make this happen, and that's why it's in the middle, is the novel quantum-resistant encryption. So, next slide. Robert?
Okay, so we did the Sigma conference last year in Dubai, or earlier this year rather, in Dubai, and that ended up in a magazine article that came out that got posted to the Telegram groups and stuff, so you can see it. I think it's also on our website. And then recently I had the chance to meet up with Brock Pierce, who was at the UN conference I was attending, and I was a speaker at the day after I met him. And this was at a dinner that we had with Queen Maxima, who is the Queen of the Netherlands. And it was quite an evening and discussion. We talked a lot about blockchain advocacy because he's very active in Washington, D.C. He's probably arguably one of the most active people in Washington related to blockchain. And we are quite active as well. And so we're looking at, how to work together and join forces. And I'm going to hopefully be getting a meeting with him again. And also I'm going to be inviting him to my podcast. And I've got a podcast recording I'm doing in about an hour or so with world famous physicist Lawrence Krauss. So I'm excited about this podcast series that will also integrate a few things on new ways of thinking and using blockchain in governance models around the world. So very excited to proceed with that. Next slide. It was an honor for me also to be invited to speak at the CEO Summit. I've been doing a lot of university kind of presentations lately also. And I'll be speaking at ASU this year at their graduation. So I'm excited about all of these things that are happening because certainly our profile has been increasing quite a lot. I just looked at my direct social media, sort of like groups, I guess, the number of people that follow me directly. And it's this last week was the biggest increase I've ever had by a huge margin. So I think things are really, really, picking up for us across the board. And it's really exciting to see. So we're continuing to expand our content and our personal data sovereignty. You'll also be seeing a big ramp up of more AMAs with external communities and groups. Curran takes the lead on that and does a great job. Curran, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, so we're now going to be doing roughly around 2 AMAs.
It's just lagging.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're on now.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool, awesome. So we're now going to be doing roughly around 2 AMAs a week. The whole premise around this is to obviously bring more eyes to all the great things we're working out here at Crown Sterling. We're going to be doing them in community sizes of between 30 to 50,000 members. A general premise of cross-pollinating communities and bringing new members to the Crown Sterling community. So we're super excited to get that kick started as well. The first one will be this week, actually. So we're super excited about that.
Got it. Okay, great. So conferences and events we're attending. I'll let you cover this one.
Okay. So for the rest of this year, we're going to be at LA Blockchain, and Robert is going to be speaking on a panel there. We're also going to be at Decentral Miami. Robert is also going to be speaking there. Also coming up very quickly is your speaking engagement at the Future Innovation Summit, which is fantastic.
So I'm not thankfully having to fly to Dubai for that.
Right.
So I'm doing it by Zoom.
And then there's a couple on here. Curran, do you want to talk about Token 2049?
Yeah, of course. So most recently, roughly around 10 days ago, I was actually in Singapore for Token 2049. It's actually one of the biggest conferences Asia has to offer. And frankly, it was quite amazing to see the growth still in the community and within the crypto industry in generally. Everybody's still building, people are still investing pretty heavily. And the Asian community is definitely something which we're looking to expand into from Crown Sterling perspective as well. It was a great conference, plenty of strategic partnerships formed, and I will be actually at Token 2049 in London on the 9th of November as well. So if you guys are in town, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to connect with some of our community members and have a chat whilst we're in town for sure. Generally, with the conference circuit, we are going to be attending, obviously, the LA Blockchain Summit. We have Decentral Miami. We also have ETH Denver as well. I will be at, and we will be locking in the calendar for Q1 next year as well to coincide with new listings and also the full release of the app as well. So plenty of exciting things to look forward to.
And just to add to that, one of the other things that Curran and I and Greg are looking at when we go to these conferences is also where where it makes a lot of sense is we want to be doing more fireside chats. And if that provides an opportunity for us to have direct contact with you all, we'd love to see you there. So as that schedule gets more fleshed out and defined, we'll definitely be posting it up and sharing it. And again, we'd love to see you.
Great. So we've got some Q&A time now. So we'll basically open this up to some questions from the group, as well as from, from what we've got already listed as questions. So the first question we have here is, can you mine CSOP? I'll let Greg take that question.
So the answer is yes, but not quite yet. We are going to open that up at the first of the year. We're going to have two different ways to actually mine, right? One is going to be a traditional node validator, which proxies traffic kind of around the ecosystem and validates and rolls up message transactions. It's a true proof of communication. It's actually going to be pretty slick. The second way is storage validators. These will act as kind of decentralized storage points all around the globe where everybody's data is broken up into many different pieces and spread around. Again, a lot of our, when I mentioned empirical testing, right, the reason we really do that is because of network effects. Out in the real world of computing, things change quite drastically from the theory, and we're really happy with the solutions we're coming up with based on that approach. I guess I'll take node validator info too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, I think you could take the next question after that also.
Sure. I actually have something exciting to tell you regarding that next question. So per my pretty much previous response, validator info will start to go out at the first of kind of the first of the year. We're going to have community members come, obviously be the first in line to run our nodes. There will be, basically a queued sign up process for this, because we do expect there to be a lot of demand based on the incentivization mechanisms that we built into kind of the architecture and into the protocol in general. More info is coming. Thank you guys for your patience. We're super excited to open this up. We really think that's it's a very pivotal point for the project, and we're really, really excited to start really spreading our wings. And we have a lot of already really great partners in the queue, thanks to Kern and thanks to the rest of the team to help run validators. One other thing to mention, you will be able to stake your CSOP with a validator if you would like to mine but do not want to purchase hardware. That information, again, this is called delegated proof of stake. This will be released with the node validator info here in Q1. I guess, all right, software wallet. So here's what we did with the wallet, right? So obviously, CSOP exists on the Polkadot blockchain. Right now, we've decided to change the modality of the application to focus on communications, to focus on data sovereignty, to focus on messaging, to focus on data storage, to focus on these things that we all know we care about, right? Ultimately, when you go to Amazon, does it take you to a wallet where you see money right away? No, you go look at products, you go look at services, you go look at basically offerings that the company has, other than the fact that they're kind of like a first-class collection point and transaction point for finances, for money. Now, you will be able to access your wallet through the messaging app. You will be able to send money through the messaging app to your friends. It will still achieve all of the same functionalities that we currently have. We're going to display them from a UX and UI perspective in a bit of a different way. We think it's going to be a lot more friendly, a lot more intuitive, and provide a lot more real-world use cases for CSOP in general, which we really want to increase the velocity of the token. Something I'm excited about. I actually, I got so excited I probably jumped the gun. Hopefully I don't scare the crap out of Robert here. But, I really do think, sometime within the next year, we will probably put out a hardware wallet. This will be something that you can plug in and access the Orion app with. It's like basically your master key to, your finances, your funds. It will be backed up. You can back it up in cold storage offline. But, after after doing some research, I love the concept of being able to plug into any computer and access my Orion infrastructure, right? Kind of it acts as a master key. We're obviously going to keep software wallets around. But for those that want the extra security, extra peace of mind, and frankly, a cool piece of hardware, you know, you can look forward to more information on this probably Q2, Q3.
Great. And where can you buy CSOF? I'll let,
Oh man, that's a current question.
actually, I'll let Curran take that one. He's the master of all the different locations and stuff. Go ahead, Curran.
Yeah, and we're constantly expanding in terms of where you can actually purchase CSOF tokens. But right now we're on roughly around 5 to 6 different exchanges. We're on FMFW, HitBTC, Changely Pro, sorry, and also Bitmart. So if you are in the US, you can purchase WCSOF on Bitmart as well. We're on a ton of decentralized exchanges such as SushiSwap and also Uniswap as well. So you guys coming from a decentralized ecosystem can purchase the tokens using your MetaMask wallet on one of these dexes as well. And going into the new year, once the full release is out as well, we are going to coincide with the new listing strategy, and we have several listing agreements with all the tier 1 and tier 2 exchanges as well. So we're super excited to activate that coming into Q1 next year.
That's great. Okay, so you got other questions?
Yep.
No other questions from the crowd?
I have one from Telegram while you're pulling those up. What was the deadline for the government needing to be quantum resistant? I thought it was this year.
It is this year. It's this year. So the government, you know, is, I would say, being ambitious to say they were going to try to get everybody on quantum resistance, especially when they've already had failures on the new ones that they've said they're going to implement, because they don't know that you can implement one-time pad the way that we have and we've done. We're the first to do this. So they're starting to know about it because of through our Theon, you know, activities and everything. And there we have had meetings, et cetera. So they're starting to get aware of it, but definitely, I think the government's going to be way behind what the edict they gave themselves because they're having problems with the implementation and challenges of the, you know, the new implementations that have gone in place, and then the failures that have actually happened even since they decided to go ahead and launch some of these things. So it's very much behind, but they were supposed to have been fully in place. The last update I saw, it was going to have to be by, I think latest was October, November. So this month.
Yeah, when I see computers on Windows XP in government buildings, I already know this was a pipe dream.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream. It's a total pipe dream.
Yeah.
So.
First question we have is, can the CSOF team blacklist wallets to prevent someone from transacting?
Can the CSOF
Yes.
team blacklist?
Yes. I mean, so right now there is a way to do so. We would not, I don't think, ever do so. I mean, realistically, right now we're actually preventing. So the only reason, I mean, again, this kind of goes back to, you know, some discussions we've been having around messaging as well, which is like, okay, well, you know, we obviously want to be very careful regarding censorship, right? We don't really want to censor anything, but there's a couple, you know, there's a couple notable issues out there in the world that I think we can all agree should, you know, kind of be taken care of ahead of time. Generally, instead of blacklisting addresses, we're going to prevent people from creating them in the first place, right? This obviously doesn't work every single time, but I don't think we have plans to blacklist any addresses in the future.
Yeah, we certainly don't. And I wouldn't even say that what we're contemplating about putting into the technology is a censorship mechanism. It just won't allow you to post child pornography or something. It's going to have that kind of relationship. And I really am reticent to have any kind of monitoring or censorship at all on any.
Yeah. It's really there's only one or two key ticket items we have to take care of, but it's like, yeah, I mean child pornography is definitely up there. That, and, you know, ultimately terrorism, which the government you know, cares pretty deeply about, as well as I'm assuming everybody here. those are the only two things where, again, we won't technically censor, we won't monitor, we won't build any retroactive software that go forth and basically comb through content and decrypt people's messages. But what we will do is prevent things from being posted in the first place.
And that'll just be part of an AI that'll just basically block them from being able to post like a child pornography photograph, for example.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. We'll have basically an automated way in
There's
which
no monitoring.
those people get banned from the platform, and then they can't ever really get past that to begin with. But the same kind of goes for the wallets, right? I mean, as far as blacklisting addresses go, it's like, there's probably only two scenarios I could realistically see where that might be viable, and it's the funding of terrorism and the funding of child pornography. There's not really that many more instances where this is viable, or where we would even consider it. And again, these systems will be retroactive. They'll be built in as kind of like a first tier system to the software itself.
Okay, I think we have another question.
Yeah. Next question. Do you have plans to have any how-to videos for onboarding new help users unfamiliar with crypto to acquire CSOF?
I'll let Greg handle that question. I mean, I'll just preface it by saying that in general, we want our software to be simple enough that you can figure it out without having to go anywhere, right? And that's kind of a standard that I think the world wants to get to all the time. However, there are going to be features on our app that may not be immediately intuitive, right? I mean, for example, I wanted to post a poll yesterday on my Telegram page, and I couldn't remember how to do it. So I had to Google, how do I post a poll on Telegram? Right. And so I found it and I posted it. So it's not going to be something that we're going to go hardcore and really promote, because we want people to have an intuitive experience right from the very beginning and learn it. But at the same time, we do want to have a repository of information that people can access should they want to ask questions.
Exactly.
Right. Does that answer that, Greg?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a lot of content being built. Obviously, we are experiencing a little bit of a paradigm shift in the fact that we really want these Web3, in quotes, applications to resemble their Web2 counterparts, where, hey, the crypto is still widely available to the people that know how to use it, but that system should not prevent any user from using the softwares as they exist today. We want to give people not too many options, but enough options to be able to get from point A to point B, no matter what their background is.
Great. Cool. Okay, what else? Any other questions?
No, we're done.
Okay, I think we'll call it a day. We've got a very exciting year coming up for everyone. We're very excited to be able to launch our messaging. I think this is going to be really cool. I love the idea of autonomous social cryptography is now basically it's being termed. And I definitely believe that this will be a great platform for us to launch also our file storage and, our password protection services. And, I even learned a new one today on like cold storage wallet, or I guess it's just a hardware wallet. But basically we are very excited about this next year. And I think all of these are building use cases for our very cool technology. I'll ask Greg to make one last comment. You've said this to me several times, Greg, which is that the thing you like about our platform is that we have a basis and foundation upon which to build many products and services that can have high impact. Can you give us some context on why you believe that?
I mean, it honestly goes back to the encryption piece, right? When we look at data sovereignty as a whole, it made sense intuitively, and from a programmer's perspective, it made sense to start with messaging first. These are the simplest to serialize data types in the world on a computer, right? So solving that problem first makes sense, but by solving that problem, you all of a sudden expose yourself to, okay, well, what if I replace that message with a file? What if I replace that message with a legal contract? What if I replace that message with a mortgage? What if I replace that message with, you kind of name it, right? Anything that, blockchain's really good at taking, it's quite good at taking very large and typically inefficient markets and making them hyper efficient. And when you start to open your eyes and realize that, these are everywhere you look. They're everywhere you look. That's when, things start to click, and you can kind of have this, you can have this perspective about the future that the technology holds. My job and my personal goal here is to make that path, being able to roll out new data sovereignty products as seamless as possible, right? We want to be able to hop from one to the next in a very orderly fashion, and in a way that obviously builds the best bloody tech, right? At the end of the day, that's the name of the game here. So, and not, what I say tech, I don't, hopefully nobody misconstrues that, but it's the best user experience, right? It's the best experience for our users and for our community. That's that's kind of the long and short of it. But as Robert has said, and you guys have heard today, there's a lot of really exciting things coming down the pipeline. The best, and again, the best part about it is, again, the hops from one to the next are becoming smaller with every single product we come up with, and every single product we implement. The hops become smaller, so makes rollout easy.
So Curran, thank you, Greg. Curran, I'll just ask you to comment. You've been with the company now for a year, right?
Yeah.
You've been working with us outside the company before that, but where would you say we are? What have you seen kind of develop in the company over the last several months?
I'd say it's been a tremendous journey, and I think first and foremost, let me just say thank you to the team. It's been amazing to be obviously collaborating, but during this past 3 months, definitely we've been in deep tech development. What's really developed is we've really built out a phenomenal native crypto team, and I'm really passionate about what we're currently building. And I think if you add together the ingredients that we definitely have in terms of a fresh, defensible, and disruptive core technology, that's really going to allow us to be a first mover on a wide space. I would say as well, you guys really have to question current social media platforms such as Meta. I mean, if you're not paying for a service or a product, ultimately you are the product, right? So yeah, I think generally speaking, we've come a long way in terms of building out our phenomenal crypto native team, and also bringing our technology to a space where we're super excited to obviously get that to market now. Alongside that, there's been tremendous growth in our community globally. I mean, just attending a conference in Singapore and hearing Crown Sterling's name ringing bells, and generally in conversation with people as well, is it's a great thing to see. So it's been a tremendous year, and onwards and upwards for sure. Absolutely.
And one last point I'd like to make as well is that all our business models require the use of CSOV, right, to be able to purchase the service, right? Can you explain that real quick?
Yeah, so the token is really a utility token. And so when we put the messenger out and you sign up for a subscription, what you're going to get is a tranche of tokens. And the tokens in the background are going to be used to use the service, but they also act as a store of value. So if you don't actually use them, you can be assured that you have that value sitting there waiting for you, almost like a savings. And that's a really, really cool additional aspect to the ecosystem that we're building. Yes, CSOV is the token, it is the utility. You are going to use it as you use the different services, but whatever you don't use is then also stored for future value. And I think that's a really solid differentiator for us in the space. And it really guarantees that even though we feel strongly about putting products out that are worth paying for, because we feel strongly that if you aren't paying for it and if it's free, you are the product. And we want to be very clear about the fact that these products are worth paying for, your rights are worth protecting and paying for, and the system that we're building has the value that is worth paying for. In addition to that, you also have, in a sense, the security of knowing that, yes, I am paying for this service, which in and of itself carries the value of the price tag, but I also have the security of the tokens that are behind that. So it's almost like a guarantee, and in a way just continues to bring this value added perspective that we feel strongly about.
Great. We'll never make comments about the speculation or what's going to happen with token prices, et cetera. We never would. But what I will say is that I believe that the demand for our products is going to be very high. I fundamentally believe that. And I think that, you know, when you have a business model where it's all based upon, you know, the sale of tokens is all based upon a utility and use of a product, and we've got several products now. You know, I could see, we definitely have got plans to have millions of people on our app, right? Many millions and millions of people on our app. And you can imagine that obviously there's going to be subscription plans. Stay tuned. You'll start seeing more and more about the business models associated with this. And I think it's exciting when you start combining things like VPN, file storage, far more efficient file storage as well, providing service as well for people that are already storing data on other platforms, and how they can dramatically save, right, because of our compression technology. I'm very excited about where we are. And I couldn't be more excited about where we are for the future as well. I think this is a product portfolio that is ready for what the world needs when it needs it. And going back, you know, banks need, you know, money needs banks, property needs walls and fences, and data, the world's most valuable asset, needs encryption. Have a great day, everyone. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.